A performer can look airtight on paper and still underperform in practice because operating a property involves unpredictable human factor, shifting market conditions, and execution quality. And that's the truth. We have the human aspect of it because we found out that some underwriters or people that bring the deal, they're so emotionally tied to the deal that they tend to just underwrite the deal to favor them or to just get your money. And they don't do the background work, or they know it's a bad deal, but because you can put in, it's just like computer, garbage in, garbage out. I can put in any number and for sure that deal is going to be good. Welcome everyone to another edition of Ask the Multifamily Expat, and today we are going to be discussing a very interesting topic. But before I start, I would like to talk about why we are doing this, why this is important to us, and why you should take advantage of the opportunity. It's very difficult for you to find someone or people that can actually give you the right answers if you're investing in multifamily. I had those challenges when I initially started. I didn't have anyone to turn to. I didn't have anyone to ask questions. And so right now, what we now do is we invite people that are very knowledgeable in the multifamily space, and you have the opportunity to ask questions. But accidentally, I have a lot of people coming in to listen, but they don't ask questions. So please, yes, I know we are here to learn. So the more we ask questions, the better we'll get clarity on everything. So now we have a Q&A session in your, should I call it dashboard? All you need to do is type in your questions, and as soon as I do it, I zip up and I will attend to your questions because this is more about you and less of me. But before we start up, we are going to go through the topic for today. Why are we even discussing this? First of all, the topic for today is from spreadsheet to the street, translating financial models into real world performance. Some of us have been investing in multifamily and we've had different experiences, and there are reasons for that. It didn't just happen. There are some reasons for that. So the first thing that happens for those of you that have the experience, someone calls you, oh, I have a deal, I want you to invest in it, and they give you a pitch deck. A pitch deck is like a summary of what the deal is all about. But one thing people forget to understand is that the pitch deck is actually man-made. So I can decide to write the numbers as I please, and that's it. And that is where the problem is. So the ability for us to understand the difference between what they're telling us as the financials and reality, then we can be able to deduce or ask the right questions to know if we'll be going into this investment. In multifamily investing, underwriting and performers are often presented as if they are the truth. So the pitch deck are presented to you as if they are the truth, but in reality, they are just assumptions. They are all layered up assumptions, and that's the truth. They are all projections. This is what anybody doing the underwriting is assuming that would happen to the deal. A performer can look airtight on paper and still underperform in practice because operating a property involves unpredictable human factor, shifting market conditions, and execution quality. And that's the truth. We have the human aspect of it because we found out that some underwriters or people that bring the deal, they're so emotionally tied to the deal that they tend to just underwrite the deal to favor them or to just get your money. And they don't do the background work, or they know it's a bad deal, but because you can put in, it's just like computer, garbage in, garbage out. I can put in any number and for sure that deal is going to be good. They can only do that to someone that is not experienced. But one of the reasons we're having this meeting is for you to open up your eyes and ask the right questions, because you can never tell which of those deals fall into those categories if you're not asking the right questions. By the time you're asking questions, then you start seeing the loopholes, and that's the truth. So we have the unpredictable human factors attached to these deals, and if that underwriter, whoever has that deal, is biased, then you're going to have issues right there. That means the deal is not going to come to fruition. That's it. And we also have the shifting market conditions. So the market conditions that happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, even last year is way different from what is happening this year. These things have direct impact on deals, and this might be one of the factors why your hairtight performer is actually not performing. That's it. The thing about the shifting market is it's something you cannot 100% control, but if you've done the right thing, like the acquisition part of the deal is good, you are saving money, you are checking for the red flags on a regular basis, it's possible that you can easily, or you can create some strategies to mitigate the impact of those shifting market effects. What are those shifting market effects that we are saying? Let me list them for you in case some of you are not aware that these things directly impact all deals, not just multifamily, not just single family, the stock market, the bond, gold, Bitcoin, everything that I've mentioned and beyond. All these external factors have an impact on it. So this is not a knowledge just for multifamily. It's a knowledge that you can take out to other forms of investment. But for me, I stick with my multifamily because it's something I can handle and control. So what are those factors that have been affecting deals in the last 7 months or recently? We know interest rate has been on for a long time, since 2023 when the Fed started increasing interest rate. So interest rate is a known factor for the last 2 years. Since 2023, we've known about it. Another one that's been happening is the US debt. So many of us are not aware of the impact of the US debt and the inability, or we are trending towards the inability for us not to be able to pay those debts. And what is the impact on investment? The impact on investment is very significant because, one, if those debts are coming due, the Fed will need money, we need funds to start servicing those debts. And if interest rate is high, imagine you buying a house for 3% and you're refinancing it and it's now 7% or 5%. That is way above what you currently have. It means that your mortgage is going to be impacted. That means if you're paying 1,000, it's possible that you'll now be paying 2,400 or 2,300 if you are going from 3% to 7%. You'll be paying double and more for such. That is the same thing that has happened with the US debt. Right now we have high interest rate. Most of those loans were gotten between 1% to 3%. The highest then were 3%. So right now interest rate is way higher. So if we are servicing debt, it's just an incentive for the government to start printing money. And if you don't know, if you're not aware, that is currently going on. And if that is going on, that will lead to inflation. Now, the thing about inflation is that multifamily is a good thing for us. As inflation goes up, multifamily's value also goes up. Rent goes up. Everything goes up. The only thing that will not go up is your mortgage payments because it's fixed, especially if you've done a fixed rate. It's not going to affect your mortgage payment. So that is just the difference. Inflation helps multifamily versus other types of investment. Some of you that are investing in 401ks, IRAs, inflation is so bad for those kind of investment. You really don't want to be in those kind of areas. So if that is happening, if they are printing money, the US dollar is constantly reducing value. Based on our accounts since January, based on economists, they said the US dollars in the last 7 months has lost about 20% of the purchasing power. It means that if you were to buy this phone, for example, if you were to buy for $1,000, it's possible that it now becomes $1,200. So $1,000 can no longer buy this, but $1,200 will buy it because it has lost like 20% of its purchasing power. So that means you are buying more for the product, and not that the value of the product has increased, it might not have increased. So those are the impacts, and those are the shifting markets that we need to also look at and understand how we should be doing our underwriting and creating our assumptions. Now, if you are to create your assumptions, we need to factor in those market conditions, never ending changing market conditions, like we've been saying it. Another one that we've been seeing is the tariff. We've always had a free market playbook, as in America does not really have tariff on other countries apart from China, and that is because of the competitive advantage and other reasons. The power thing, China and US always trying to become world power and other factors involved in it. So just few countries like that have been sanctioned or have those taxes, but now that's not the case. We literally have many countries facing the tariff. So that also can affect your underwriting or your projections. That's a market condition, shifting market conditions that me and you don't have any control about, except the people in the house. I mean, the house and also the White House that have control over that. The next one is execution quality. Another thing that we fail to understand is that multifamily is based on performance. That is, whoever is in the driving seat of the multifamily, regardless of if the deal is good, if you have the wrong person seated there, that is the wrong property management and the wrong asset management company seated on that seat, you are in for trouble, regardless of if that deal was good. So that is some factors that you need to also consider that have a significant effect on our performance performer. So the way we've been underwriting last year is not the same way you should do. I'm going to explain what are the things you need to start factoring out right now based on all the different factors I've explained, like the human factor, the ever-shifting market conditions, and the execution qualities. What are the things you should start looking for your spreadsheet to look like reality? Because if a spreadsheet does not look like reality, then you don't have a deal. That's it, period. For those of you that have friends that might be interested in this, now is the time for you to send them an invite of this, because this is very educational for them. And before I go further to start describing why this matters to you, I want to first of all talk about our different platforms. We send out educational content on all our platforms. We do it in such a way that regardless of if you are this type that does not like to listen to long stories, you don't like to listen to long content, we have very short content in our Instagram and our Facebook that are very educational and that can even prompt you to say, okay, I need to know more. And if you need to know more, you can as well go to the YouTube channel. These things take us time to do. We don't just come and bring out points. We go and do research. I cannot tell you how many hours I've spent on doing research before even speaking to you, because I cannot come in here empty-handed. And the good thing is that the experience we have on a daily basis on what we do is also helping us talk about these things in real life. So you can see us on official BB Ofiri on Facebook. That is our Facebook page. You can also see us on our group. We have also our Facebook group, Blue Ocean Multifamily Group, and you can also follow me on my Facebook. I'm also BB Ofiri on my Facebook group. You can see us on Instagram as blue_MF group. On my personal Instagram is where I interact with people on a personal level. I just bring things down to the lowest level where people can understand. I literally can be talking about anything and be doing something else at the background. It's just for you to understand the message and pick it up and start riding on your journey. On YouTube is where we have massive content where you can learn everything you need to know about multifamily, and LinkedIn is also where you get to learn everything about multifamily, but that is more for a serious audience. So if you're the very serious one, LinkedIn is your go-to. If you're the one that you're very inquisitive, you need to know more, YouTube is your bet. But if you're the one that have a low span of concentration, or you're too busy, you have many things to do, you can't just sit down to watch a 15 or 20 minutes video, Instagram and Facebook is your go-to. So please take advantage of this content. They're absolutely free, at least for now, they are free. I also want to inform you that we'll be bringing out our course soon. I'm someone that does not really like people doing so much of courses, because I feel that if you are learning every time, paying for different course programs, and you're not executed, then that is a problem. For us, the case is different. We are not just going to push you to learn in terms of just the theoretical part. We're going to push you to also participate in deals, and that will be for only people that are very, very active on our educational platform. So look out for that soon. That will be coming out soon. The thing is, it's undergoing construction. We are done with the content. We've been done with it for the last 3 months. So anytime now you'll get it. And it's going to be a token, not something ridiculous like what we spend on other platforms. The idea is that we really want you to learn. But guys, we spend money on all these things that we do. Every month we have staffs that we pay to ensure that these things happen, that we give to you guys for free, but it's coming out of our pocket. So that is not going to be free, but that's the content that we poured out our entire life and everything into it for you to learn. Let's go into the next category. Why does this matter to you? Because you also need to understand that what I have on paper might be different from what the reality is saying. So this is important to you to know, because someone somewhere is going to present you with an underwriting or a pitch deck. You need to know if that is suitable for you, and you need to know how to connect the reality. You need to stay ahead of what is happening in real life, so that if you know that this and this and these things are happening in real life, you can be able to tell if a deal was properly written, if they've really done a good deal. Then you also need to look at different things, like why this is important to you is if someone brings in the spreadsheet to you, you need to also look at the rent growth. What is the rent growth in that market? Because it's going to affect the reality. So if someone brings to you a spreadsheet and the rent growth is like crazy rent growth, like 9%, we all know that right now that is not the case in many markets. In short, majority of the market, we are not seeing those type of significant growth at this point. So if someone is bringing to you 10% rent growth year after year, then that is very questionable. But if you don't know that the market is cooling off, or that rents are not achievable as that, because in 2022, 2021, we were seeing 15% market growth. But this is a different reality. So if you're not aware and someone brings that to you, it's possible that you will be convinced and say, oh, this thing has very good returns. But in reality, the market does not support it. So that is what you will need to know. You need to understand that a deal requires execution, market support, just like I've said, and also the residents that are staying there, their satisfaction. Residents are the very most important factor in a multifamily business because they are the ones that will pay the rent. So if they have some issues and all that, it's going to affect what you have on papers. Now, the second point why this matters to you is because there's a difference between performer and reality. And once you understand that there is a gap between both, you'll be able to say, okay, what can I do to ensure that my performer aligns with the reality? So for example, the rent growth, occupancy, expenses, and capex timeline, interest rate, these are the things that can obviously derail your performer from reality. So the first stage is that your underwriting should look at the market. What is the market saying about rent growth? If a deal is brought to you, you should ask them question, what's the market's rent growth? Not your own rent growth. What is the market saying? And can you show me some details about that? It's not as if you are doubting them, but you are taking their word and verifying it. That's what you are doing. So you can trust but verify. That is the game in this state. Another thing you need to do is once the performer and the reality is different, you need to understand the gap, just like I've said. So if the gap between both is in terms of expenses, then you need to know how do you control your expenses. So there are different ways for you to know if it's your expenses that is the issue, is for you to track it. For us, we track our expenses every week. We don't wait for 1 month to end before we start tracking it. We don't even wait for 1 quarter to go before we start tracking it. So we track weekly, we track monthly, and we track quarterly, and we track semi-annually, and we track yearly. The reason is because anything can just derail your deal from performing. And how do we do that? We create things called KPI. Like we always tell people, some of us are used to hearing KPIs in our place of work. This is how your bosses or your superiors kind of score you to see if you are meeting the key performance indicators that they've set out for you to do. It's the same thing that is applied to multifamily. It's not that we just throw in money and we go to bed. No, we do this. This is a business that we keep on monitoring. So we always ensure that we create KPIs. And how do we create our KPIs? Our KPIs are created from our business plan. So if you have a deal, the deal must have a business plan. If there is no business plan, what the hell are we buying the deal for? What is the plan that you intend to have for the property that you just bought? Did you just buy it because it's pretty? Or did you just buy it because they said it's brand new? Now, a brand new property can be worthless, and a Class C property that is 1962 can have more value than a property that is Class A. And that is because multifamily works differently. It's more about performance. What is the property producing? And the only way to monitor it is by the business plan. First of all, you're buying it based on what the business plan is. Now, since you understand the business plan, how do you measure that your plan is going as you want? The only way is for you to set some indicators that will give you triggers to know if you are in the positive side or in the negative side. So that is what some of us don't do. We just buy properties and we go, oh, I just closed on a deal. No, the job just started. You have to monitor it on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually basis. That is how it works. And if you're able to do that, you'll be able to understand if there are issues and if you need to pivot. I'm going to give us some real life examples on failed deals and real deals that went through. Please, if you have questions, you need to type it in the Q&A. I'm here to answer your questions. Based on the experience we have, we're going to answer those questions. And if we don't, which is unlikely, they will tell you we don't know it. But really, we have such an experience to know many things are happening in the multifamily space. Then another thing you need to factor in is the small misses. There are some things that don't have the spotlight. Things that have spotlights are things like interest rates, vacancies, and all that. Those things kind of have some spotlights. We know them. We know these are things that can affect any investment. But there are some hidden assumptions that if you don't take note, can affect that deal from matching up with your reality. So things like tenant behavior. I just mentioned that tenants are the most important factor. In short, they're your customers. It's like any other business that you do. Your customers are the bloodstream of that business. If you don't have the customers, you can't fund your expenses. You can't even become profitable. In short, it might lead to you shutting down the business. Similarly, the same thing happens in the multifamily space. If we don't have tenants or we have the wrong set of tenants and we don't do anything about it, it can lead to foreclosure because you will not be able to pay your expenses because it's the income that you get from them that you use to take care of your operational expenses. So it's critical. So those are some of the hidden assumptions that you need to look at thoroughly. So things like tenants' behavior, the delinquencies around them, the turnover, the eviction timeline. So for the delinquencies can make your very good, beautiful underwriting certain performer deal look good if you were supposed to assume that that deal was going to give you a delinquency of 10%, and because you wanted it to be pretty, you went to put 5%, and in reality it's actually 10% because maybe you have the wrong tenant. Your property management company did not vet those tenants very well. They brought every Tom, Dick and Harry to the property, and if you bring every Tom, Dick and Harry to your property, the implication is delinquencies and the implication is high turnover. So you have people that will not pay your rent. You have people that wake up all morning and just disappear. They call them skippers. They skip. They will not even inform you. They will go. So those are some hidden assumptions. When someone is presenting to you a performer, you're asking the question, what has been the trend in terms of delinquencies? What's the age receivable? Age receivable for multifamily accounting shows you how long a receivable payment is being owed. We have a category for 0 to 30. We have a category for 31 to 60 days. We have a category for 61 days to 90 days and above. That alone can show you the performance of a property in terms of what they are receiving as income. So in terms of the economic vacancies, that will tell you a big story. So if you're looking at their age receivable and the age receivable is massive, it shows to you two things. Either the property management company that you have, they are basically useless. They are not doing their job. Or secondly, if they are useless, definitely they are bringing in bad tenants to the property. That's the truth, because you can't have them be good in one side and they're very terrible on the other. They'll be all around nonsense and property match. Sorry, I'm using those words, but these are true life things that happen. So if they are that way, that means you will definitely have bad tenants. And once you start having bad tenants, your delinquencies will go high. So there's some signals and triggers that will make you understand that this deal that somebody brought to you is unlikely to strive if you just but only ask the right questions. Eviction timeline. So if they are bringing you deal as well and they are not telling you how the county or the state handles eviction. For example, the way California handles evictions is different from the way Texas handles eviction. So I have properties in California and I also have in Texas. So I know how those two properties perform. You don't want to have a bad tenant in California because the law favors California tenants. One of my tenants did not pay rent for 2 months, kept posting us. Finally, we said, we're done. We need to send an eviction. So in order for us to go through the process, that one took us another 3 months because there's a process you need to follow. You need to give them a 3 days notice, then another maybe 2 months, another one nonsense process like that. So 3 months after the first 2 months that we not collected rent, another 3 months just went like that, right? And to not make it worse, the day that they were supposed to give the judgment, tenant sent an appeal. Because the law favors the tenant, the court gave the tenant more time. So we as the landlord, we've not just lost months of rent. In total, we lost 8 months of rent on that tenant. So if you don't understand the law in that market versus the law about eviction in Texas, then you might be in for trouble. So you should put all those calculations in your performer. For someone that is bringing a deal to you that did not calculate properly what those things look like in their underwriting, on their spreadsheet, then there'll be trouble. Say I have the same property. I have 100 units in California and 100 units in Texas. The way I'm going to underwrite their delinquencies is going to be different. I might choose to put delinquencies for Texas for 5%, depending on the situation, and put for California 10%. And that is just because of the law that surrounds it. That is why, because for me to evict a tenant will be more difficult for me in California than for me to evict a tenant in Texas. So these things are very important. They can derail a performer from reality. Somebody sent a question in Q&A. Remember I said this is more about people asking questions. I'm in a social media marketing, but I would like to add multifamily as an additional revenue stream. I would like to target individuals with SDIRA, that's IRA investors looking to invest for retirement. My question is, do you think using Facebook advertising to find these individuals and funnel them to a deal presentation will be successful? Do you know anyone who is doing this method? Yes, every platform is used for advertising, but guess what? You need to understand the deal you're advertising for. If it's a deal that's gone live, you need to know if it's a 506C or a 506B for you to determine if you can advertise. So for a case whereby you don't have any deal right now in your bet, all you need to do is start advertising now, because there's no law around you not advertising. It's only when a deal now goes into effect, then you need to follow the law around the deal. So to answer your question, yes, Facebook, advertisement, social media platforms are good ways for you to see it. But the difficult thing about it is that some people have bastardized the trust from investors. That is, the last 3 years, people were getting money. In short, during the pandemic, there was a lot of of money in the economy. So many investors wanted to repurpose those funds rather than spending it. They wanted to invest. But the bad thing is that some of them were not doing their due diligence, and most of those deals that some of them invested in, they failed. So that is having an effect on the market, on trust. So people are not trusted. But guess what? If you are consistent and one or two people have invested with you and you say what you preach, you're likely to get investors from that because they've seen you. Don't assume that people are not watching you. So let me use myself for an example. I have very few likes on my post, but I see that a lot of people are viewing. So I see sometimes in thousands people are viewing my post, but I'll check the likes, maybe 20 likes, maybe 5 comments, 7 comments. Some people are just there watching, and when the right opportunity comes from them to invest, they will just connect with you straight up. I've had those issues, I've had those situations, but the thing is, trust is built over time. The more consistent you are, the more people can trust you and try to do business with you. So it will be very difficult for you to just come from thin air and start posting things on Facebook and think that people will just naturally want to jump to them. No, people now are very smart. People now are somewhat educated than it was before. They are taking the right steps to ensure that their money does not go around the rabbit hole, and in so doing, they will be reluctant to go in with someone with less experience or someone that has not shown track record. So if you want to do this in the near future, start now to start talking about multifamily, your successes, even your failures. I talk about both my successes and failures. I do that because anyone that is telling you that they've succeeded all around in investment, you need to be careful. I hope I answered your questions though. Yes, so that is that. If you have more questions, please put it on the chat. The next one is your CapEx timeline. So for example, you have an empty unit and your property management is very slow to get those units turned. Every day missed, every day lost is money lost. So imagine a property that was not turned in 30 days or in 2 weeks and was left to sit for 6 months. I've fallen into that situation where my property manager, for no good reason, did not renovate one of the units, left it there seated, and 7 months we didn't collect rent for no good reason. See, I fired the property manager so that you know. And some of you ask questions, why did you allow it go that far? The reason why we allowed it go that far was because, one, we needed to do some very, very major repairs on the property. So we expected that once we've done that, those repairs, the property manager should now do the make ready and bring in people. But the guy just sat on it and did not do anything. Because I always have these weekly and monthly meetings with them, I was able to identify that, and I was like, this is a no-no, we can't take this. Either you do something or I fire you. And that was it. I fired more property management companies than I've hired. And that is because you are accountable, you are responsible for people's funds. So there is no sentiment around it. We don't play games, we are not sentimental. I'm very serious when it comes to this business. If you're not doing your job, then you have no business with me. Another one is unpredictable costs like insurance, utility, and property tax. Now, because of the climate change, for those of you that do not believe that climate change is a big deal, it is a big deal, guys. It's affecting the weather. We are having more hurricanes than normal. We are having more sun. Dallas is so hot that even the day that they said rain will fall, our temperature was 98 degrees. The boiling point for water is 100 degrees. So you can imagine 98 to 100. They're almost the same. We experience things like 112, 115 degree heat in Dallas. It's not funny, guys. So these things have effect on properties. We've had storm destroy more roofs than normal. If you don't know, these things have effect on your underwriting. So it's possible that you've been in the business for the last 20 years and those things were not major problems, but right now they become more problems. So the way you were underwriting your deals 20 years ago will not be the same way you'll be underwriting it as at today, because we have more storms. So you'll be having more reserves, more capex budget somewhere, more markups for your insurance, that insurance is likely to go up versus an insurance likely to come down. So those things, if and nowhere factored up, that's how you see the difference on your spreadsheet and in reality. So you need to match up those things to get a better reality. Market shift. Right now we have an inflation issue, just like I mentioned earlier on. The market has shifted. I recently did a post on the wholesale report, PPI. I mean, how the inflation has gone up with the PPI. So I also gave us the trend. If there's a tariff issue, tariff is affecting the market as it is, both negatively and positively. Positively in the fact that the nation is getting more funds in terms of billions out of it, but guess who is paying it? Me and you are the ones paying for those funds. So the negative impact is that it's not stimulating the economy. Some people are on the sideline. Businesses are downsizing. Some businesses are pivoting to other forms. They are just rechanneling their business, restructuring it to see how this can work for them, and some are even shutting down. So the way you were underwriting last year or in 2022 cannot be the same way you're doing that this year. You need to take into factor that some of your tenants will lose their jobs, so your vacancies might go up. That is the real life implication about it. But you also need to take into account that people will have less spending power, less spending money to spend, because they're spending more on maybe food, water, transportation, and other things, and even medical. You also need to take into cognizance that there's a new bill that being passed that some people will be stripped off from their distance. That means some of them will pay more for medical than others. So all these things have real effect on your performance. You need to take into cognizance on that. Some of you might be wondering, why is she talking about these things? The thing about investment is that we go along with policies. Policies affect investment. So there's no way we will not talk about policies and politics in any investment, guys. It's not possible, because if we say we just want to not see it, then you will not also see your profit in your investment. We have to see it so that we can easily start pivoting on our investment. We can start taking strategies. For us, we're partnering with programs that are helping people to pay their rent now and pay later. You know, there's a study that says that people are going for more credits, having this long-term payment plan than paying right now. We are seeing those things happening, and we're underwriting to those things. You need to underwrite to those impacts. Someone is asking a question, follow-up questions. You mentioned following the rules for property when it comes to social media advertising. You gave the example of 506. It's 506C and 506B. 506B, you cannot advertise. 506C, you can advertise. So that is the SEC rules around it. The way they did it is in such a way that they're kind of protecting investors, especially investors that are not savvy. I mean, people that are new to it and all that. Some of them, this is their life end savings. That is, some people, they are literally taking their entire IRA funds to put into multifamily, and they want to be sure that people like that are your family and friends, that they are likely to overcome such. If anything goes wrong, they are likely to overcome it because you are family. They're likely to recover from it and all that. So they want to be sure that people that you're engaging in that are where you have a concrete relationship with them for that to fly. So there are rails that the government have put in place to protect the ones that are less experienced, the ones that are new to it, to family members as well. Family members are easily exposed to this kind of issues because they are your brother, your sister. You might just want to give them your funds, you're adding money because they are family. You want to be sure that you have those relationships before you can invest. So 506C, 506B, I'm not discussing about that. If you want to know more about the 506 fee and 506, go to my YouTube channel. I did a Ask the Multifamily Expat with an SEC lawyer. Go there and watch the video. You will have answers to it. So the next question here is great point about the economy ties impacting tenants' disposable income. How will underwriting be impacted by installmental rent payment? Can you recommend a template that accommodates those tweaks in one's analysis? So for this, my delinquencies. So yes, even if they're making payment instrumentally, let's say their 1 month rent is $1,000 and they want to pay that within 2 months, then this is what will happen. It means that I might have a delinquency of 500, regardless of the fact that I know that they are going to pay in the second month. I will account for that in 1 month. So let's say, for example, the total annual delinquency I'm supposed to have, let's say, is 5%, because I've done my lease audit. So how am I able to determine that there are some tenants that are doing instrumental problem? Is when I'm doing my lease audit. So when I'm taking over a property, I'm going through the lease audit. The lease audit tells me a lot of the tenant's behavior. So with the lease audit and the age receivable and the delinquency reports, I'll be able to tell what is the behavior of the majority of the tenants on the property. If I see that the delinquency is low and the tenants literally pay early, then I will underwrite it in a different way. But if I see that they pay, but rather than them paying in 1 month in 0 to 30, they now pay in 0 to 60 days, I'm going to underwrite it in a different way as well. So your underwriting is going to come in differently. I'm going to increase my delinquency in that case if they're spreading it over 2 months. Then another thing, if they are paying it within 1 month but not at the beginning of the month, because really rent is due between the 1st to the 3rd or 1st to the 5th depending on their lease agreement, but standard is 1 to 3 days. That means the 1st of the month, 2nd and 3rd. Once you've not paid on the 3rd, they start sending you 3 days notice to pay. If you don't pay, then they will take you to court and and the eviction process will start from there. Once you understand that if I have a tenant that is paying within 1 month but is paying late, giving me half of it at the beginning of the month and another half of it at the end of the month, my underwriting will simply include an other income, a boost in my late fee. Because for the fact you are paying late, a portion of it late does not excuse you from paying a late fee. So you're still going to pay a late fee. I'm going to accommodate, I'm going to put that impact on my underwriting, that my late fee might be impacted upward slightly because I'm going to have people that will pay late. But all these things, like I always tell people, all these things starts from the beginning. When you're able to understand the type of tenants you have, you'll be able to tell if your tenants are the instrumental rent tenants. Like I have a deal that the tenants pay early, and I have a deal that the tenants don't pay until the second month. And do you know why they do that? They don't pay until the second month because the owner has a Fannie Mae loan. So there's something about the Fannie Mae loan. For those of you that are not aware, the Fannie Mae loan there's a CARES Act underneath it. That is, they kind of have a protection for the tenant within 0 to 30 days that you cannot evict them. It's the CARES Act, guys. There's nothing it's just a way that the government is trying to protect and ensure that people are not just evicted within the 0 to 30 days. So if you have a Fannie Mae loan, you should underwrite towards that. If I have a tenant that is delinquent, that is not paying, I literally I will not be able to take out the tenant 0 to 30 days. I won't do that. I can't do that because of the loan I have. That means I have to underwrite that I'm going to have more delinquencies than I should, although it's going to be paid or it might not be paid. I'm likely to evict them in 31 to 60 days of the month, or they are likely to pay on the 31 to 60 because they know that you cannot do them anything between 0 to 30 days. So these are things you need to understand: the type of loan you have from the beginning. What does it permit? Some of us don't read our loan terms. Sorry, I read my loan terms. No matter how bogus it is, I read it because I don't want to be caught in the act. So you have to read. Even if you cannot read, give your lawyer to read it and interpret it, summarize for you. Now we have ChatGPT. All you need to do is upload it there. ChatGPT, summarize it for me. Give me the important points. Guys, there are different ways to kill a cat right now. So that is for that. I am going to recommend that you put more in your delinquencies if you have them paying instrumentally. And if it's within 1 month, your other income might go up slightly because you're going to be charging them late fee. And you should also understand that you might have to increase your legal or your eviction cost, because what if they don't pay? Then you need to evict. So evicting them does not necessarily mean that you're going to get your money from them. If you evict them, the other thing you do is take them to collections. Now, with the collections company be able to collect your rent, so you need to put all those things into cognizance. Like I always tell people, the numbers tells me a lot of things. I like numbers interpret a lot of issues. Me looking at a profit and loss of a deal, I can tell you what is going on that property without literally stepping my feet. It can give me the ability to ask questions. I will be able to ask. So when I'm buying a property, I don't just go and see the property before I underwrite. No, I will underwrite first, do a preliminary underwriting that tells me some things. I want to go there, tour the property and ask the right questions. That is how it should be done. And that is when you get answers to your questions. But the numbers will tell you what it is. So Olufunke, I'm sure I've been able to answer you. We are running out of time, so I'm going to wrap up today. There's so many things. I wanted to give a case study, but the fact remains that I'm bad experiences in investment. But the thing is, the more we do these things, the better we are to understand the issues and mitigate them head on because of the experience. For those of you that are not aware, we recently closed on a deal. It's called the Tall Manor apartment deal. The due diligence video is just for us to create transparency. We want people to understand that we really did the due diligence on it. We also have videos for our investors that are out there to update them on what is going on. So why I'm saying this is that we have very few slots available for anyone that is interested in investing with us. And what we are raising, the remaining balance to raise, is very, very small. So that's why I said we have a limited slot. For those of you that have invested with me before, you know the type of job and the way our weekly meetings go. Our weekly meetings are not funny. We ask the right questions. And some of our investors are given the ability to join us on our asset management calls, to be a fly on the wall, to understand what is going. So we are not taking our limited partners blindfolded. No, they are observing, which other people would not do. We are allowing them to see the challenges we are facing on the deal and the successes that we are having on our deals. And that is important to us because it creates transparency. You are saying when there are issues, it cannot all be rosy, but the fact remains that you are going to see the problem problems and you're going to see how we are mitigating them. So these are opportunities that we have open to some investors, not to everyone. Some. There are reasons why I'm saying some. If you want to know more, reach out to me, but we have very few slots available for you to invest. So I'm going to wrap up today by saying that underwriting is hypothesis, that is, it's a projection. That's why we always use the word when we are talking about investment. Projected amount is projected to. It's not a mistake. It's because it's actually a projection. They are not in reality. They are not real yet. But if you do your job well, they can become real. Underwriting is an hypothesis, but operations are the tenses. They prove the tenses. The most successful investors are the ones that do the job, that put in the job in it to ensure that they are buying the right property, not just buying the right property, they have the right business plan, they have the right KPI to make them know when there's a trigger or there's a red flag or there's a warning sign, and they are the ones that are actively operating the property. So guys, that is all for today. I'm going to give one more opportunity to one person. If you have any question, just quickly ask before we call it a day. I see that we have quite some number of people. We really appreciate you for taking our time to be here. You don't just wake up one morning and throw in your money somewhere. You need to know and ask the right questions before you start investing. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you. I don't see any other questions. Let me check again if there are anyone before we call it a day. Thank you so much, Olufunke. You said congratulations on the successful closing of Tom and all. Yes, you got it right. That is it. So I don't see any other one, and I would like to say thank you all for taking our time to be here. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time for our next Ask the Multifamily Expat. Thank you and have a wonderful day.